Hey Sass Squad, so I tied for ninth place in the most stacked NA tourney in the history of tournaments for Pokemon Go. Out of like 126 people, I almost got into the top 8 and an invite to Worlds. I'm going to talk more about my experience in this first round of competing in internationals for Pokemon Go battling. I'm still pretty proud of my performance. I didn't bring any XL Pokemon, I brought no Sableye. And those are like staples of the game currently. I really did want to like go to Worlds in London, but at the same time I didn't even realize I'd do as good as I did. I wanted to run a non-XL team because I wanted to show new players that you can actually compete in these tournaments without building like an XL Medicham, XL Sableye, and I didn't run Registeel either. Obviously a lot of you probably already know this is Go's first cycle through Worlds, and you know, there was a lot of anticipation going into this tournament and such. It was actually pretty insane sweaty. First of all, there was 127 players. Like, granted, not everyone competed. There was definitely some buys. There's definitely some situations where, you know, people already competed and they were just there, like Dune and Rise, for example. But just in case you didn't tune in, I'm just going to show you the top brackets. It's Axon pretty much got the W. Really impressive games there. Honestly, Andrew versus It's Axon was super awesome. Zygomatic and Kaiser. So all 4 of these battlers are going to Worlds. So super amazing, very talented. Yeah, I thought, honestly, 9th was pretty decent. But I'm not going to dwell on anything, but honestly, even in my final matchup, I actually had win cons to get the 2 versus 1, but my opponent was just very seasoned and very well, pretty much had a really great approach to how he was going to battle me. So definitely don't feel upset about it. In the end, I talked to him a bit and very much proud of him as well. Trent is actually the guy who I faced in my final, and unfortunately he got knocked out right away when he got in the top 8. But yeah, the team I ran is actually right up here on the screen. I ran Welrin, Shadow, Nidoqueen, Dedenne, Trevenant, Scrafty, and Skarmory. And out of, you know, a lot of you who follow my content and know me as a battler know that I strive to have fun in the game these days. I don't really try to push leaderboard. I don't really do Sylph as much. So me kind of going into this tournament against some of the most stacked battles, like, it's insane. I even did 9th, like I tied for 9th place. But yeah, I'm kind of jumping around here in thoughts, but just so you know, I actually did end up winning like 16 booster packs and like $500. I don't know when they're gonna give the $500. I think it's gonna be sent to me in email at some point. But yeah, I wasn't even expecting that. But yeah, Trainer Rem, honestly, you gotta love Trainer Rem, yo. He made it into the top 8 running Lucario. Like, really cool pick, and that's like his signature Pokemon as well. Gotta love it, dude. I got to meet him also. Such a great guy. Love the dude. I'm actually gonna probably try to do like a duo stream with him here sometime, maybe sometime in July, because he just has good vibes, yo. I want to be surrounding myself around people like him who kind of show you there's other ways to play the game. And the thing about Trainer Rem, he plays Lucario very often. So he was, even though like it may seem like a random pick, but Lucario actually has some very unique play in this meta, especially with Welrin, you know, resisting the Icicle Spheres. And I'm a big believer that you gotta play with what you're comfortable. And when you're looking at my roster here, if you watch my content, you're probably already seeing that comfortability. Like, oh, he loves running Shadow, Nidoqueen, and Scrafty together. And that's pretty much where I started whenever I was initially looking at how I was going to build this stuff. Real quick, before I talk about my team, I just want to show you the brackets like that I went through and such. The way it was organized, there was multiple stages, all right? So we had the Group A, we had Group B, C, and D. And the way it works is there's a winner's bracket, which is pretty much how it starts off, and then there's a loser's bracket. But there is a chance pretty much the top person in the winners and losers goes to the top 8. And once you lose twice, you get knocked out of the tournament entirely. So very impressive run here by a lot of people, but I'm just going to scroll down to Group D, which is where I was located at. Just kind of give you an idea of how it looked from this perspective. So I'm down here, and my opponent, my actual very first opponent, was a bye. But let me explain this. This whole situation for the tournament is a little scuffed in a way, because I know a lot of people were hoping to get me on the Twitch stream and watch me battle, but it was just very unfortunate with the way they set things up. I was the very last battle of the day, and they ended the stream right before my battle against Trent. But what ended up happening, they ended up sending an email out, 2 different ones, and one of them said that ours started at 12, and another one said it started at 2. And I showed up at this event at 7:30 in the morning, and I didn't even start battling until 2 p.m. And the irony of it was my very first opponent didn't even show up. So my very first battle was actually a bye. But because everything started so late, I was behind the entire tournament. So yeah, I actually end up facing Trent here on the very second battle, and he knocked me into the losers bracket, which is where I started my run of just winning every single battle. Yeah, to be honest, like, I was so nervous, and like, Trent is a really great battler. You might not be familiar with him. I actually wasn't even familiar with him until this tournament, because I don't really keep up with leaderboard. I don't pay attention to stuff like that. So I didn't really know that he was like a well-known battler in the community. But so pretty much, I'm gonna shrink this just a little bit so you can see this a little bit better. Like, you'll see here, I had to go through so many battles just to be faced against Trent one more time. And unfortunately, it ended up, it was so close, but look at this. This is fucking crazy. Like, literally, Andrew, who was in the top 8, only had to do 5 wins since he was undefeated. But since I got knocked into the losers bracket, I had to win 6 more battles and also the last one to get into the top 8. But like, look how crazy this was. I don't even know if anyone did as many battles as I had to. I was like looking at other people's stuff. But yeah, this was even like a pretty stacked group in itself. But yeah, I just wanted to like loosely talk about it because I don't have any battles I can like show you exactly. But yeah, I ended up getting knocked into the losers bracket by Trent, and then I had to face Trent again. And at that point, I had a better idea how he played and such. But even then, it still didn't work out in my favor because I just kind of made a bad call. He knew I liked Scrafty, and I brought Scrafty in our first matchup almost every battle. But as the tournament went on, I started to realize, Scrafty's actually really good bench pressure, and if I just play around that and don't bring the Scrafty, I have some really nice matchups against a lot of my opponents. But in my final battle against Trent, I led Shadow Nidoqueen into his low Ninetales, and when that happened, I was like, this is my game, I'm gonna win this. But what I brought in my backline was, I had Trevenant and Skarmory. I had a feeling he would bring Medicham because he brought it virtually every match, but he made such a great call on this last battle. And it still was even close because what he brought was low Ninetales, Stunfisk, and Swampert, and his plan was to try to bait out my Trevenant, hoping that I didn't bring Scrafty in my backline, or just hoping to win alignment at the very beginning of battle. But because I was assuming he had Medicham, he safe swaps to Stunfisk, I safe swap to my Trevenant, and instead of trying to bait in this scenario, I just went straight Shadow Ball both time, and he double shields. And, understand, I'm assuming he has Medicham, and I have my Skarmory, which I'm like thinking, okay, this is going to be game regardless. But it ends up that he has Swampert, and because of the situation there, I can't one-shot it with Skarmory, and he just narrowly pulls off the win, which was an amazing call on his end, honestly, because if I would have brought Scrafty in the back line, that would have just been GG based on alignment. But he made a really great call there, really insane mind games. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to briefly talk about the tournament. Like, I think personally the most memorable moment for me, I actually got a lot of play with the Dene. You might not realize this, but the Dene wins CMP against Swampert, and I was facing Magic Mason. Dude, it was much love to Magic Mason. Yo, it was insane. He was visibly molding a little bit after our match, but he had double Hydro Cannon. And instead of throwing the Earthquake, he tried to bait with Hydro. I'm gonna live that with the Dene. And I ended up throwing Play Rough, and I CMP his second Hydro Cannon, and I pretty much put it in lethal. It was actually insane. But yeah, I had a really great run. I mean, it wasn't easy going into the loser's bracket, trying to get out of it. But yeah, still ended up tying. It says I came in third for D, but what this means is pretty much everyone who got third place from A, B, C, and D, we all tied for 9th place. Pretty much the people from 9th to 12th all win the same prize. When I went into this tournament, I wanted to run Spice. Like, obviously that's how I like playing the game. I wanted to make a challenge for myself as well and try not to run Registeel and XL Pokemon. I didn't want to run XL Pokemon at all. And my main reasoning behind that was I wanted to run a team that was more accessible to new players. Like, granted, Welrin's double Community Day moves and Shadow Nidoqueen is another one that you're gonna have to TM away frustration for an event. Even Scrafty, arguably you have to like re-roll it or have played an event that you caught it in the wild. But overall, this team is still kind of meta while running a couple Spice picks. And it's very accessible, unlike some of these XL Pokemon, which are very common in these tournaments. Sableye was almost on every top team, and the whole point here, I wanted to play a different way. Tried to run Spicy, but I knew I couldn't go too far down the rabbit hole. So I ended up going Scrafty Nidoqueen, which is two Pokemon I love using in GBL, and I ended up settling on the Welrin Trevenant core because, you know, that's just too solid of a core currently. And obviously it's just going to come down to a lot of times just mirror matches and such. The last two picks are the ones that I kept shuffling on nonstop. There was a point where I was hell-bent on running Shadow Lone Marowak, and, you know, honestly I'm really glad I didn't, because I felt like it's going to become an issue if I was facing a Lickitung, or even Obstagoon was kind of getting a lot of play. I didn't even see really any Obstagoon in this tournament whatsoever. I think the spiciest picks on this team are definitely Skarmory and Dedenne in the current meta. Skarmory is an interesting pick. I wanted something that could still do well against Sableye, but that was pretty much my steal pick, was running Skarmory, which obviously doesn't do a great job against Stunfisk or Registeel, and it can still suffer against other things depending on energy leads and such. But yeah, I just wanted to run I wanted to run Dedenne in the end. Like, Dedenne was kind of like a last minute choice, because I liked that it did decent against Welrin. I liked that it did well against Sableye. I liked that it did good against the fighters. Very unique Pokemon. Obviously not really a best pick against Swampert and Stunfisk or Nidoqueen. But to be fair, I wasn't thinking that we were going to see that many Swampert or any of the ground types, really. Like, obviously they're going to get play, but we had ways to deal with it, and I don't know. I just figured the reality of this scenario is alignment is key. A big part of it is going to be the poker game and figuring out, do I bring it or not? And I also kind of had problems with Talonflame initially with this line. So I wanted to bring something that was a little more of a check for Talonflame instead of something like Cofagrigus or Shadow Lone Marowak, because originally I was so focused on running Double Ghost with my team, and I'm really glad I moved away from that in the end. This team ended up working really well for me. I do feel like if I had experience going into this tournament, I probably would have been able to play a little bit sharper. But I don't think, with that being said, that I did bad in any sense. Top 9 did pretty well. Yo, Sombra, thank you so much for 24 months. It was great meeting you also in Columbus. But yeah, I guess if you want, I could like show you my IVs and my Pokemon real quick. I don't think the Welrin IVs are that great personally, especially with like the way the mirror is. But I do actually have a rank 1 Trevenant, and my reasoning for running the rank 1 Trevenant was because I knew my team was very good at scaring away opposing Trevenant, and this kind of allowed me to avoid being in a direct CMP with other Trevenant, which, you know, obviously getting a rank 1 that doesn't reach a mirror is really good. This is a Scrafty that I got from Jangles, and I've been using this Scrafty forever. I mean, this is like probably my most used Pokemon in Go Battle League right here is this Scrafty. But yeah, Scrafty definitely a really strong pick. Obviously against Charmers, you gotta be careful, but that's one of the main reasons why I like having Skarmory and my Nidoqueen here. But yeah, I actually did practice a lot for the most part. I tried to practice against a lot of the teams that got in the top cut in the previous tournaments. I was talking to people in my factions that I knew I could trust and getting their opinions. RC Cola definitely was one of the homies that was leaning towards me running to Dene. But yeah, I just kind of briefly wanted to like talk about it because I did tie for 9th and I did have a pretty solid run going through the losers bracket. It wasn't easy by any means. I'm surprised I did as well as I did because when I lost game 2, like understand, like my very first real battle, I lost it, you know, and like I played so sloppy against Trent in my first time against him that I just, something clicked after that, and I just started like making really great calls. I'm not a huge fan of baiting, and realistically in these type of tournaments you can get away with baiting in a lot of scenarios. But real quick, let's just like look at other people. Valor Ash is another person who tied for 9th, another amazing battler. MX Champ pretty much tied. They were running Ariados, which is pretty sick, honestly. Gotta have respect. Kayvon, also another one who tied. But look at this, like, this is just insane. Like, look at these people who I tied with for 9th. They had like much better runs almost. Like, it's crazy how many I had to battle. Like, look at this. I had to fucking win like 6 battles when I was in the loser bracket. Like, that was insane. Like, honestly, that's fucking crazy that I did that good. I really wish I had examples of battles to show you. I really wish I could have gone on stream. I'm a little surprised they didn't put me on stream because I was running such a spicy line. But, you know, it happens. I'm not even going to hold it against them. They had a contract. They had to end the tournament at some point. But I really appreciate all the people who are reaching out to me on Discord and such, talking about how you've been paying attention, watching. You were like keeping an eye out for my run and you're rooting for me. Yo, honestly, I wish I could have had some of these recorded battles because they were just insane. Like some of the most insane battles I've ever done in the game. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to briefly talk about why I picked the team I did. Most of it really lined up with, I wanted to play something I was comfortable with. I knew I wanted to do something a little spicy. And I didn't want to run XL Pokemon or Registeel. I wanted to move away from these, like, it's not that they're exclusive as much as they're just very grindy Pokemon that if you're a new player, they're a lot harder to maintain and get these Pokemon. So yeah, that was my whole goal going into this tournament, is to prove that you can still be a great battler in this community without being a whale, particularly. At the end of the day, like, obviously I wanted to go to Worlds. I really wanted to do my best, but I think this was still very validating for me. This isn't the end, yo. Like, there's a really good chance I'll be competing next year as well, and having this under my belt and knowing a little bit better, like, dude, it just makes me feel good knowing that I was in one of the most stacked tournaments ever, and I did this well. And it just feels good. And like, look at that! I had to fucking win, like holy shit. Like, it's insane how many battles I had to do just to get out of the losers bracket. Just to face Trent again. But yeah, GG's to Trent again. GG's to all the battlers I fought. Definitely not easy by any means. That's what I'm trying to get at here, is none of these battles were really easy. Now I kind of wanted to briefly kind of just show like how this team kind of like was rated on PvPoke real quick. So there was a great tool here on PvPoke where they pretty much set it up so you can pretty much just build a team against what was the most common metas being used. And generally, whenever I build a team, I sat here and tweaked the 0 shield, the 1 shield, the average of the 0-1, and the 2 shield. And I just went through and pretty much made sure that like there was nothing that I only had one answer to. Like that was very much key. Yeah, I just went in and made sure like, and if there was something that looked like it was threatening to my line, I just used my best judgment. Like how often are we going to see that Pokemon? And I did so many sims with matrices, figuring out like how my Pokemon performed in the 1-2 shield when it has 1 versus 0, 0 versus 1. I spent a lot of time just trying to understand, like if my opponent ran Swampert, for example, how would I play against their team? And that stuff really paid off for me in the end. And that's what I'm trying to say is a big part of doing well in a tournament like this is knowing your matchups well and running Pokemon that you're very comfortable with. The Dedenne I wasn't too comfortable with, but with that being said, most people who I faced were not comfortable facing the Dedenne either. For example, I had a matchup against someone who didn't know the matchup well, and they double shielded their Talonflame on my Dedenne. So things like that definitely played to my advantage in the tournament, but it wasn't like the end-all be-all there as well. But I do feel like, especially when you're running stuff like Welrin, like my Welrin IVs were pretty bad in regards to like a mirror match and such. But yeah, it's like really important to try to bring some attack investment knowing that Welrin is going to be in constant mirror matches more than likely. Yeah, if you want to avoid that and you know that you're going to lose the CMP, sometimes you just want to play it as like a safe swap scenario so you can get energy lead. But yeah, just kind of like briefly, I'm not going to sit here and do like a deep dive on the team against the meta, but generally speaking, I just tried to make sure there's no scenario where I just didn't have a decent answer. Sableye definitely still kind of scary against my team, but believe it or not, like we just weren't really threatened too much by the Sableye. At the end of the day, you could run something like Wigglytuff, and even though it's so one-dimensional, if you're just really great at alignment and predicting, you can make that thing work. Like that's the reality of playing this game. So yeah, originally I was like kind of diving into some team comp ideas that were really spicy. Like I looked at Zangoose, I was looking at Lanoon, I was looking at crazy picks. I'm kind of glad I like came back to earth, but yeah, I still ran pretty meta to a degree, but yeah, spiciest picks on my team are definitely Skarmory and Dedenne with the current meta. But yeah, with that being said, Sass Squad is getting stronger each and every day. You have a good morning, evening, afternoon, returning, and I'll catch you in the next one.